Hey guys, it's Chris. From a terrifying accident with a cargo ship to a man who got run over by his own truck while trying to launch his boat, here are 10 ship launches that went horribly wrong. Number 10. Death in Bangladesh. In one of the most disastrous ship launches ever, 26 people have died after a small boat launched with roughly 150 passengers on board and then collided with a cargo vessel and capsized. This horrifying incident happened mid-2021 in Bangladesh. It was a Sunday night on the Shitalakia River, just a handful of miles from Dhaka, when the passenger vessel ML Sabit El Hassan smashed into the cargo ship SKL-3 and sank to the ocean floor. According to eyewitnesses at the scene, the cargo vessel fled after striking the other ship. According to the Dhaka Tribune, by Monday, rescue efforts recovered a total of 21 bodies. An administration for the district agreed to pay a total of $296 to each family for the deceased to cover burial processes. The only good thing about this horrifying collision is that it happened immediately after launch, and so about 60 passengers were able to swim back to shore. It was the people who couldn't swim very well who ended up drowning before they ever made it back. Number 9. 2 launches, 2 accidents. A Korean shipyard in China suffered 2 launching accidents in 2 years. The first accident was in 2009 when a newly constructed PCTC ship, also known as a pure car and truck carrier, sank during its launch. Then in 2011, a newly constructed cargo ship grounded immediately after being launched from a floating dock. This is a huge anomaly in the world of launching ships, and it's especially true for giant cargo ships like these ones. They kind of really don't fail at launch ever, and yet 2 ships failed and were essentially destroyed at the same launch site in just 2 years. In 2009, the PCTC had water flush into the cabin because of a broken broadside, ultimately causing the whole ship to roll over. And then in 2011, water gushed into engine cabins and caused the new cargo ship to slip away from the floating dock on its own, and then smash into the ground. And this begs the question, what exactly is wrong with this particular floating dock? Why have there been so many failures from this particular launch site? Perhaps the big irony here is that at the shipyard's website, the company says their goal is to be the #1 shipbuilding company in the world. Number 8. Accidental lifeboat launch. 2 crew members were injured after an accidental boat launch that happened on the tanker Chemtrans Nova. The tanker was sitting off the coast of Virginia when the incident occurred. Members of the U.S. Coast Guard had to be called to rescue 2 engineers who'd been working inside of an enclosed lifeboat when it accidentally launched on its own. And both engineers went overboard with it. Luckily, the Coast Guard vessels quickly arrived and pulled one of the survivors out of the lifeboat before rescuing the other survivor who was found floating in the water. The victims suffered minor injuries, including lacerations and a broken leg, but both did end up making a full recovery. What's really crazy is that accidents involving lifeboats actually happen all the time in the maritime industry, especially during maintenance. It's also very common for there to be injuries and even deaths when these accidents occur. According to the BIMCO, most of these accidents occur in boats that use on-load release systems and conventional davits. However, new evidence puts blames on other parts of the lifting and suspension systems, particularly the wire rope falls on lifeboats that are larger. And this just so happens to be an incident that was reported, but accidental lifeboat launches are apparently a menace on the high seas. So what would your reaction be if you were suddenly thrown overboard? Do you think you would last in the open water until you were rescued? Let me know in the comments below, and then don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Number 7. Botched missile launch. You know, lifeboats aren't the only things that can accidentally launch while out at the sea. A Russian ship recently set the sea on fire after a botched missile launch. The rocket left the launcher, sailed through the air, then rotated back at the ship and crashed into the sea. The failed missile just about blew apart the entire frigate as it smacked into the water in a blaze of glory. The accidental failure was captured on video, with someone saying in the background, "Look, the sea is burning." The timing of the Caliber incident isn't exactly clear, and the Russian Navy refuses to admit what really happened. In a report, it was stated that the frigate was in combat training and had test-fired Caliber cruise missiles against sea and aerial targets. The video was uploaded to a Russian site which commented, "The rocket left the vertical launcher, rose to a height of several tens of meters, but was unable to hit the target." What's really fascinating about this story is that the frigate was designed to carry unstoppable Russian Zircon hypersonic missiles capable of going up to 6,100 miles per hour to completely destroy any city in the event of a nuclear war. Evidently, they need to do a bit more work on their missile launches before they start blasting. Number 6. Surfacing submarine. A Japanese submarine accidentally launched itself out of the ocean and collided with a bulk carrier, causing significant damage to itself. While the sub didn't exactly launch out of the water like a dolphin per se, it actually surfaced right underneath the bulk carrier. But according to popular mechanics, when a submarine surfaces, it's just as dangerous as backing a car out of a driveway on a busy street. Because the submarine was surfacing off Cape Ashizuri in Japan's west coast, one of the busiest commercial shipping lanes around Japan, it was no surprise that it accidentally surfaced underneath another vessel. The submarine responsible for the incident is called the Soryu. It's allegedly one of the best submarines in the whole world, not powered by nuclear energy. But even though it's such a highly advanced submarine with devastating weapons systems, it still has a hard time rising to the surface. And that does make sense, seeing as the submarine is roughly 275 feet long and displaces over 4,600 tons when submerged. It takes a total of 65 sailors to operate the vessel and can drive to a maximum of almost 3,000 feet. Nobukishi, the defense minister, told reporters that the collision was extremely regrettable. He also said the submarine has temporarily lost all communication signals due to the damage done to its antenna mast. The commercial ship left the scene but later told Japanese Coast Guard officials that no damage was done, and its crew honestly could not even feel the impact. Kishi added that the exact cause of the accident was unknown and an investigation is underway. After the accident, 3 sailors on board suffered minor injuries, and some damage was sustained by the Soryu, but everything else ended up being just fine. Number 5. The wrong vehicle. In Colorado, during the first gorgeous April weekend of 2021, spring season saw a guy launch the wrong vehicle straight into Lake Pueblo. Colorado Parks and Wildlife Rangers were called after an SUV drove from the north boat ramp directly into the lake. According to a ranger on the scene, the driver failed to put the parking brake on, and without the parking brake, the guy's SUV rolled slowly into the water until submerged past its roof. This probably was not the vehicle the man had intended to put into the lake, but the strangest part about this is that the guy wasn't anywhere to be found when his SUV was being launched into the water. He was either helping a friend launch a boat or recovering a boat from somewhere else. Colorado Parks and Wildlife shared photos of the incident along with a friendly reminder that people should use extreme caution when you're around bodies of water, or else you could make a rookie mistake like this guy made. Maybe it was from being stuck at home for so long because of COVID, or maybe it was just out of pure forgetfulness. Whatever the case, he left his vehicle on a steep incline pointed right at the lake, and the vehicle really just rolled into the lake like a soccer ball rolling down a hill. I wonder what his first initial thoughts were when he realized his SUV was missing. Number 4. Accident on the loading ramp. A man was left with serious injuries after a disaster on the loading ramp of a British Columbia ferry. In this case, the ferry wasn't actually to blame. When the Coastal Renaissance docked at port in Tawasin, and the cars began to drive off the ramp, the very last vehicle stowed on the upper deck drove straight off the ramp, smashed through a concrete barrier, then plummeted 30 feet onto the lower holding compound and landed on its roof. It was a total freak incident. Sometimes docking can be just as dangerous as launching. Emergency services were called and the driver of the vehicle was transported to a local hospital in critical condition. As of right now, there's been no cause given as to why the driver sped straight off the ramp. He probably didn't do it on purpose, but then again, you just never know. The ferry was delayed briefly and then operations at the terminal returned to normal. According to local police, the driver was unable to speak to the first responders when they arrived, but unfortunately there has been no information released as to whether he even recovered from this disastrous accident. Number 3. Missing the launch. A fun day of jet skiing turned into an afternoon of horror when 26-year-old Laura Thomas completely missed the launch and got into a horrific accident. According to Laura's brother, her boyfriend went to get the trailer to put the skis away, and as he was backing the trailer into the water, it was too dark and Laura didn't see him. She went right past the boat launch on her jet ski and then rammed into a tree. She was found the next morning by a Good Samaritan, a 12-year-old girl whose family lives nearby, just floating in the water, 14 hours after missing the boat launch. She probably couldn't see anything. She powered her jet ski through the darkness and then must have hit the shore and crashed into a tree, before slipping back into the water and spending the entire night bobbing around like a dead branch. Her brother Alexander Thomas said in reports she had some damage to her chin and some big lacerations, some cuts and scrapes on her chest. So we believe she hit the tree and was immediately knocked unconscious, so she didn't experience any pain. And amazingly, Laura wasn't actually dead when she was pulled out of the water by rescue operators. She had a temperature of only 77 degrees and was unresponsive. She was sent to the hospital, where she died 4 days later on a Wednesday. Number 2. Accidental missile launch. In yet another accidental missile launch, the Iranian military is responsible for the death of 19 sailors after a training exercise in the Gulf of Oman went terribly wrong. It was a Sunday afternoon near the port of Jask, almost 790 miles from Tehran. The operation was going on with several different Navy vessels. It was actually the Konarak light support vessel that ended up being the real victim here. The vessel had been transmitting targets in the water for other ships to fire at when it was accidentally hit by one of its own ships. The training exercise was a total failure. Out of the roughly 40 people on board, 19 of them perished, and 15 of them were injured. The sailors were firing anti-ship missiles during the exercise, with those involved blaming human error for the incident. The ship that was hit had been overhauled in 2018 and was a top vessel in the Iranian Navy. Its destruction at the hands of friendly fire was a huge blow to Iran's credibility as a power in the water. The vessel probably won't be replaced for years to come. Number 1. Rocky Point boat accident. A man narrowly escaped death after losing control of his vehicle while trying to remove his boat from the Rocky Point boat launch. The entire incident was captured on video, showing the exact moment the man was basically run over by his own car. He had already hooked the boat up to his vehicle. He was on the boat launch, sitting inside the boat at the steering wheel, fidgeting with something, when suddenly his car began to roll backwards. Panicked, the guy ran across his boat, leapt out of the front, smacked into the back of his vehicle, and rolled out of the way just in time for the tire to not run over and crush his skull. He was incredibly lucky that he didn't die on the boat launch. Can't say the same for his vehicle, which was definitely totaled after rolling into the water, but at least he was alive. What happened here is that the man probably forgot to put on his parking brake, and as we know, boat launches are pretty steep and pretty slippery. Without the parking brake, and even sometimes with the parking brake, there's no guarantee that your vehicle isn't going to roll backwards and sink. You just better hope you're not in its way when it happens. Thanks for watching. Have you ever messed up a boat launch? Have you ever seen someone else mess one up? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more amazing videos, and come back soon. We'll see you later.